Today's session is in the file, building a collaborative design system at scale. Really excited for this one. Any design system or any product team needs to be putting collaboration at the front and center of their design process. And I can't wait to see what the folks here have been working on. I had a sneak peek and it's looking awesome. We have Marjukka and Abdul from ABB, and they're going to be taking us behind the scenes of what they've been building. And I'll hand it over to them to get started.
Thank you. I think we will start with the brief introduction of ourselves, right?
Yeah, Marjukka, go ahead, please start with the introduction.
Yeah, so my name is Marjukka Mäkelä and I have a background in industrial design. I'm based in service design and I'm leading our central UX design team at ABB at the moment. I've been at ABB for many years in a very different roles, functions from R&D to product management, and I have a passion to drive cultural change with the help of human-centered design. On my free time, I let my creative and artistic part to fly, and I do, for example, art printing that I have shared an image there. So, okay, to you, Abdul, then.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Abdul Wahid. I'm the lead product designer at ABB, design system team in Helsinki. I'm based in Helsinki. It's been 2 years, been part of this amazing team. Before this, I was working for Emirates Airline and mostly working on the design system. My background is coming from coding to front end to design. It was a long journey, but yeah. In my free time, I just do a little bit of art. It's called paper culling, and that's what I do. And it's really fun and really relaxing activity. So yep, that's us. I'll give back to Marjukka to talk about and give us a little bit brief on design system at ABB.
Yeah, let me briefly introduce what ABB is. So let's take the next slide and look at ABB. That is a technology leader that is driving digital transformation in industries. We have a long history and we consist about 20 divisions that drive their business and are very strong in their own fields and different markets. And the main 4 customer-focused and globally leading businesses are electrification, process automation, motion, and robotics and discrete automation. We are operating about 100 countries. We have about 105,000 employees. And we are on a mission to create game-changing solutions that ease our customers' lives and bring meaningful value, especially now at the era of digital transformation. We have a vision that by 2025, there is more coherence among the ABB digital offering when it comes to branding and user experience. So we need to balance the creativity and consistency across every project and product and screen that we deliver to our customers. And for this, we have a company-wide ABB design system. So let's take the next slide. ABB design system is overarching, ever-evolving system to be utilized by any product team in any of our 20 divisions at ABB. So it is a common UX design framework for ABB digital applications. Our design system consists of UX design principles and guidelines, toolkits and templates, and components, reusable coded component libraries, such as React and Angular. And the toolkits and assets we provide through Figma are in the core of the story that we are sharing today. So we will tell you about our experiences on how we built them, how we work on them, how we distribute on those. One thing that I want to still mention in this context is that this design system that we have created is serving for very wide range of different applications and products at ABB. So ABB digital offering consists of applications that run on desktop, web and mobile applications, as well as embedded user interfaces. And that creates this rather unique, and that creates the strong demand of having efficient collaboration with these hundreds of teams that we have at ABB. Let's take a next slide. One more thing that I want to emphasize is that essential part of this design system has been the team behind it. So we have a small team of diverse expertise from front-end development to interaction design and visual design, and also from different national backgrounds, from Brazil to Pakistan, and we are mainly located here in Helsinki, Finland. Our goal is to enable that all the product teams could focus more on the user needs and to reach that new level of quality and consistency within our products and user interface patterns. And this team has really been the key player in introducing UX design into the ABB practices in the recent years. And our story today is strongly intertwined into this team and the building up this design system. So let's take the next slide.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. Guys, thank you, Marga. Just raise your hand if you are working on the design system. So just to get an idea, like how many of you are working on design system? Oh, my screen is getting full with the raised hands. So yeah, it's good to know like a lot of people from design system. Awesome. And yeah, moving on. Cool. Just tell you a bit of the Figma, as Marga was mentioning, the scale of the whole ABB, but in fact, we choose Figma last year as our default tool for do all the toolkitting and the design for the whole team and ABB wide, worldwide. And right now we have one design system available to the teams and they're utilizing it. And we have 10 people behind this one design system, which we just showed you earlier. So this is a creation team who create design system. But then we have a lot of consumers on our sides and customer for our design system. There are almost, there are 30 different teams in Figma right now, 120 different editors on those 30 teams, and 900 plus stakeholders. So these are the people who are on Figma right now, and these are developers, project managers, any stakeholder in the process. We bring them to Figma. We try to use Figma as our default tool, even when discussing something, when showing something, even right now presenting something. So yeah. It's a huge setup right now, and it's increasing very speedy throughout the ABB. Bit of our design system. Currently, we are on version 4.8 right now. And when we were doing this till version 4.8, our focus was heavily on industrial products. ABB is really a big industrial company, more industrial focused company. And then we create this design system which almost served the purpose for all the industrial products, for mobiles, for embedded devices, and for desktop softwares using all different technologies. And we created a design system mainly focused on industry. But now, last year, we got a chance to reevaluate and do this design evolution. And we increased our scale. We added few more product types like communication websites, config websites, different screens, consumer apps. This is a new for ABB. We're just releasing a lot of consumer apps nowadays. So right now we are in phase of redoing a lot of components, creating new components, creating the new structure, including all these different screen sizes and different product types to our design system. And we are calling it design evolution. So it's continuous work. Yeah. Right now in ABB, we don't have any specific role for design operations. I think so in most of the places, people are already doing some part of design ops. Even in our team, everybody's participating for design operations. Everybody's like setting up some tools, setting up a processes, standardizing a lot of things. So that's what we are doing. Like it's everybody's responsibility to work and increase the quality of working together. So yeah. I think so. Very, very typical thoughts is like you give a designer a design tool or a pencil and you just done. I think so in reality, it's so different. Every designer have his own taste, its own way of working. Every team have his own way of working. So it's really become difficult when you just leave it to this. You need to put the whole infrastructure around it. And one of the good, very famous example, I think so, from Douglas, he taped a pencil to a brick to just try to show this idea that the tooling, the speed, the flexibility, the quality, how these things are important in this business. Like, think about like if anybody have to write a novel with this pencil, when brick is attached to it, how hard it will be for him. So tooling and the whole standardization is very important along the processes. I think so whenever we make this lower part harder, the lower part harder to do, the higher part will become impossible. Writing a novel will become impossible if you take this pencil and brick. So just to highlight this, that design ops is another important factor in all design system. And we just started on it, and I'm gonna take you through, yeah. So Figma as a tool, and then a lot of standardization and the documentation along with it. That's what we tried to achieve last year, and we're still experimental, doing a lot of experiments, and hopefully we will reach somewhere better. Yep, so when we did the first phase of our design system, we ended up to a few challenges, and one of the challenge was this documenting decisions. I think so, most of the time we create this really good looking components and really well-designed, well-coded component, but if you want to go back and see why somebody choose X versus Y, you always like go into this zone like, oh, I don't know, where's that documentation, where it's sitting, which file it is, which folder, which tool it is. So that's one of the big problem was. And then other problem was we are scaling our team. Sometimes we invite our consumers into our files, and sometimes we want their help. And by onboarding new people was a difficult thing. And then again, everybody have a little bit of different way of working. So, so we made sure that when we scale our team or onboard new user or designers or collaborators, they will understand the system. So that was one of the challenges earlier. We solved it. The last one is just the standardization, the consistent way of working. Designer, I think so, tend to do their own bit of pieces, their own style, their own things. And yeah, we just made sure that it's standardized and giving the freedom to designer also to do and explore and experiment, but still on the standardized parts. When it's publish anything, when it shares anything, it goes to the right place so anybody can go and find about it and find it. Yeah, I think so. This session is all about in the file, so I'm just going to take you our inventory documentation. So as Marjukka mentioned, we have like 100 of products, and there's a lot into those products, and these products are like still an early stage to be consistent. So what we made this whole inventory folder where we put where we put all our products and product details, product screenshot, all the patterns, all the components being used in the products, and just make sure this inventory is always up to date. Let me take you into the farm. So we started with testing. We tested a lot of different products. We used a lot of project management tool, documentation tool, and then we also used some chat tools around it to build something, a kind of repository of inventory. But then every time you're working on design or working on some component, you were like, okay, where I go now? You have to go out to the Figma, and then you go to this folder, look for it, find it, and then sometimes things are not one place, and then you have to learn a new structure of that folder also. So we kind of made a decision to bring everything to Figma and use Figma as a documentation tool. So yeah, here, as you can see in the file, we have component pattern inventory here, everything sorted into small cards, and further there's subdivision, application shell, content, navigation, identity. So all these cards. So each individual card presenting one frame or one artboard in this scenario. So let me jump to, for example, here. So you want to learn about, or you, for example, let's say you're creating a carousel and you want to go and learn about it, like what's going on and how it looked like in current in ABB infrastructure or in ABB products. You just go click there. And here you are on carousel page. It just shows you different, let me put a full screen. Yeah, it just shows you this source of the product. So this is ABB.com website. There are currently 2 different types of carousel we have in our ABB. And their screenshots are here. And then furthermore, some cards kind of behaving like a carousel. And further on the mobile, this is how it looked like. But then there are a few more products on the same page, the Ability Marketplace, this is a carousel they're using, and then there's other product. So we have in similar manner, every pattern and component, like kind of put it here with a lot of screenshots. And here's, for example, the breadcrumb example. In this example, you see it's a lot of breadcrumb screenshots from mobile to desktop and some other products. And sometimes we just write this use cases that why they're using this breadcrumbs, or is there any unique use of breadcrumbs for this product? So we write that often. And yeah. And if you're going to dig further, like you looking at this ABB, this Ability Marketplace is one of our product. It's a marketplace for our industrial products. Cool. So if you want to dig deeper and you see how this product look like or how these breadcrumbs look like, you go further, click on link, and it will take you to the actual product page. And then on this product page, you will have more details. You have a description of product, you have a use case of product, you have a product manager, emails and numbers written here so you can contact them. What kind of product type it is. It's a sales and selection kind of product type. And then what are the other patterns we are using or components we're using in this product. And then furthermore, if you really want to dig deeper and you want to see the live product, we also have a demo. So this is the only thing outside of Figma right now. It takes you to the our Microsoft Drive, and it just directly linked to a video file. So you can see the demo from the actual product owner or sometimes a user to understand the product better. And you go further down, you see different screenshots picked up from, unique screenshot picked up from that product. And in this case, you can clearly see how the breadcrumbs are coming on top of the hero banner or after the navigation. So you get a clear idea like how they are using breadcrumbs, and as in the previous slide I was showing you, you can go to other products and see how they are using the breadcrumbs. But just when looking at the one product, you have all the screenshot, and then further down, you just have a sitemap of that product to just understand how this is structured. Yeah. In similar manner, we have a few other products. In this case, this is a mobile product. And again, just a few screenshots. What are the patterns we're using there? And you can even click on this any pattern and go back to the pattern page and then pick up any other product and understand what's going on there. Here's another product. So yeah, so idea is to have, so index page, which gives you overall structure card-wise very quickly. You can see how many design patterns or how many components we have in our inventory or in our ecosystem or in our products in ABB. And then you can either go to components directly to the component pages or to the product pages. And we keep them alive. Whenever we add a new product, we do a show and tell, and we show to everybody in our team. So this is a new product. This is how it works. We usually show a part of the demo also. And we just make sure that everybody know about this product all the time, even though they are working on new components, old components. So this is one of the really good thing with it, and it's really benefit. We're taking a lot of benefits from it, the whole structure of inventory. So back to the presentation. Cool. The next big thing about in the file is that we change the folder structure of our components. And when we started this design evolution, one of the big things previously that we were doing this one big file and all the components in that one big file. And there was time when you open this file, it takes the time moving in the file. If you have a lot of pictures, it's sometimes slow downs and it takes a lot of time to load pictures. We tried both sides, the one big file and small file for each individual components. There's always pros and cons for both. We end up to move to this single folder, single file per component. So the pros was like, it's quick. You can only open the file you want to open it. It's a really small size file. You can open it as it's faster. It's easier to publish and share. If you want to share somebody and just send them one file about the left pane or the select or the card component, it's pretty easy. And you find all content related to that specific component in one place. The inventory of that component, the use cases, if you ran any tests, that will you find in the same file. If you have any feedback, if you have handover page, it sits in that same file. I'm going to show you all these pages later. The only I see a problem is here that you will have a lot of tabs open. Right now you can see it here, but in that, even the Figma is pretty faster on that. Tabs, moving between tabs is not slow. You can keep them open. It's not taking a lot of memory. It only takes a memory when you move there. So things like that, we just move, we made a decision to move to the structure, the folder structure for our components. And in that folder structure, we have 4 different types of files. Patterns, commonly all the patterns, like if the notification is a component, notification also is a pattern, so it sits as a pattern. We document everything related to the pattern in the notification in this pattern file. And the same goes to foundation. We have a lot of foundation components like colors, grid, typography, and then we have this component pages, individual components pages, which I already explained. And then one thing we just recently started doing, this documentation pages in the same folder. So this documentation file is here we write like how should we do the handover? How should we create a scope of component? So all this onboarding material, we just put it in the same folder. Let me show you the folder. So this is the folder here, like in our design evolution. So you see there like some documentation in the start, and then have some foundation file, and then alphabetically rearrange all the components. So it's a one place to go, and sometimes people are working on a cross file, sometimes working on a single file, but it's become really a good decision at the end of the day that small file, quicker. Yep. So moving on. Yeah, another quick question. Raise hand, how many people are using a design tokens inside the design files? Are you using design tokens, or it just, yeah. I see a few people are using design tokens in the design files. A few more coming. That's good. That's good. Okay. Just shout out to quick this Figma plugin. This is me and another friend, Jan. We created together. It's called Figma tokens. Do check that plugin. Maybe in some other presentation we'll talk about this. But today it's all about file. But it's really handy plugin when you want to do a design tokens on your code and inside the file. It provides you this JSON bin link, which you can push your tokens and also consume your tokens both sides. So that's really a cool plugin. Yep. And now more into the component file structure. So before we have team and then the folder, and now it's all about the file. So let me take a sip and take you through that. Yeah, so a component file structure, I even call it like life cycle of components. So you can go and see the whole story of component, how it started, where it is right now, and how it's going to grow further. And sometime you go back and look at it as if a year or 6 months back, you can go and still read these decisions, these things you did, and the version and how you reach to that conclusion. So you can go and read about it in the same file. So we have almost 12, 13 pages in one file. It's a lot of pages, but they are really helpful. And every page has its own purpose, and it's serving up really good right now. So the first page typically is starts with the cover, but the second page is about this use case and inventory examples. As I was showing you the inventory, overall inventory of ABB, then let's say I'm creating a component, input component. And there, I want to see how the current inputs look like in our ABB products. So I'll go to my inventory file, I'll pick all the inputs and put it in this specific folder, in this specific file and page. So I can review it, and I can see how many different variation I have to create, how many different feature I have to create, just looking at all the inventory of different products. So that's the first page. Sometime here, we also put the current design system. If we are serving a component, it's already released, we take the screenshots, we take the basic information and put it in this page. So we can understand clearly what's already there, what's in our bag, what we can put on top of it. So understanding what's we already carrying. So that's very important for the first step. The next step is, and next page is this references, best practices. I think so. The second important thing we do in our component lifecycle is we look how the other people are doing, how other people are doing the same thing. Is is there any shortcomings, or is there any good thing, or is there any good learning from there we can learn and we can try it out the same thing, or we can do it maybe differently if it's not done right. So just reading, just putting these things together and learning from them, it's a really good experience. And then you get like idea like, oh, this is what I have, this is how people are doing it. And then you move to the scope page. The scope page is a place where we define the whole scope of the component. In this example of input designing a text field or input, what we do, we bring our all stakeholders, designer, developer, any product manager, product owner, we bring them here and then we discuss this scope together. And this is the one thing I suggest, that bring your developer as early as possible. And that's the best place. Take them through the inventory, take them to the best practices, and then sit with them and work on the scope. And scope is just a textual scope. So you write like, I want this number of variants, I want these feature, we want these feature because of this inventory product, or because of this inventory request, we picked it up from our GitLab or other tools, how we receive requests. One of the thing, another important thing here is sometimes we just do this incremental scope where we just define like, okay, we have to create only this MVP or this early version, and then we release it, learn and come back and change the scope. And sometimes even during the design exploration, we change the scope because some things comes up and some things change throughout the life cycle of component. Once we have brief and scope ready, we pass on to the designer, and designer have this page called sandbox, at literally a kid's sandbox where designer go and do whatever he want, just try out and experiment. It's basically experimental place for all the designers. So I will later show you how it looked like. It's sometimes feel like so messy, no standardization. It's just a file where he freedom to do anything. And yeah, so it's just a place to experiment. And once designer feel confident that whatever he's trying to achieve, whatever he's trying to create, it's ready, he put these things from sandbox to our version and create a new page and call it V1 and put his designs there to show to the stakeholders, to the developers, and start discussing that, is this something possible or not throughout the creation process. Yeah, sometimes here's another thing. Sometimes you already have a version 1 ready and you want to improve something. So it's recommended to create another page and name it V2. So you can see how the evolution went from V1 to V2. The next page we do in our design, in our component files, are a component page. In that we use all the Figma component. And we started doing a lot of Figma component and using this variant and features, Figma features, and we're creating everything as a component. Once we feel it's the stage that we can go out with this. And once we have this component, we take that component and put on this style rules page. This is a very unique page. In the start, we thought it's not that important, but I think so most of the time is spent on this page because this is a page where we put a lot of things, not just the design of that component, but a lot of not written stuff, like, for example, how the maximum, minimum value, what will happen if there's an error, what will happen if there's no error, like things like that, which are not visible enough in the design. We put it here, and then we do it in like similar way that we do this kind of like, okay, a lot of open question, we don't have answer to that. We're going to try it with the user, a lot of future consideration, like, oh, maybe not now, maybe later. We try to write even the feature API also, how the API will look like with the help of developer. And then we always make these notes whenever we review anything. We made these notes so we remember what needs to be done and what was there, and then any designer can go and pick that up. It's more of like a discussion page and putting everything at one place. Once we're ready with that, we move over to this handover page. We pick up everything, we design, we discuss, we change, we take that and we move it to our handover page. And there we use design tokens. I'll take you deeper into the design tokens and how we use them here and how we put them next to the design itself. And this is a page which we put together for our developers, for our consumers, If any developer in our wider ABB team want to create a design system or in some other language which we are not supporting, he can go there, he can learn from it, or he can read these all things either from Figma Inspector or either from our tokens. So it's a mix of both things. Yeah. Cool, and this is the last page. It's a lot of pages, but this is the last page. And once everything is ready, we create this documentation web page. We have internal design system website where we push all our new components and our releases. And in there, we just define the component and design it in a way that how it will look like at the end of day on the real website. And there we also do the examples of a live example of React Angular and WPF. And then we put all the do's and don'ts and details, when to use what, when not to use what. So yeah, so this is all about the structure of one file, one component. I'm gonna take you into the one of it. So yeah, cool. So in the file now, as you can see, there's a lot of pages on the left side, starting with this cover page. I think so everybody have their own way of putting your cover pages, but it's very simple. It's just telling the name of the component and what stage it is right now. And as I was telling you about this inventory examples and use case example, the second page in our file. So this page, the first thing, because we already have an input component, text field component available in our design system. So first thing is this putting an actual what we have right now, the screenshots, a textual form, what are there, how many types are there, which kind of feature is supporting this input right now, how many states are there. But then digging deeper and going into something like this, where each product have its own one card. And if you notice, everything here is put as in the form of presentation. So it's not like one big messy file and there's no alignment, but here putting this as purposefully. So anybody can go and start from left side and slowly go to right, or maybe just go to presentation mode and can read every single slide and reach to a conclusion that how many different products and what are their requirements, how many different types of styles of input we have right now in just one product. So that's our agenda, to make them consistent. And even sometimes we put a patterns, like for example, notification patterns, how we using a push notification, how we're using a desktop notifications. So yeah, different products with screenshots, with their features, what kind of feature they already have, what their feature they could require. And then moving on to a little bit more into like, okay, here's the icon example. And there are a lot of products, and just mentioning the product name and again, the link to the same file. So you can click, go to the inventory file and read more about that product and just see the demo and read more about it and see the demo and feel the product up closely. Yeah. So this is inventory. Next is references and best practices. As I mentioned, that picking up something, how other people are doing it. For example, how Google Material tested their floating label and moved away or still using it and why they're using it, and just understanding that background, or if there's any other product who are doing similar thing, or is there any competitor product who are doing a really cool stuff, and just understanding that and how can we make more better product as compared to theirs. So yeah, then the scope. So you have a story, you understand all the products, you know what need to build, you know the requirement, and now it's time to write it down and make a brief out of it. So just again, sit with your developer, stakeholder, product manager, or the people who requested this component, just write it down, just set an expectation between everybody. This is what you're gonna build. This is what we want a designer to explore also. It's not just if we write here, we have to build that. So designer gonna explore, like, try out the floating label, try out this condensed input field design and see if this is good or not. So giving them an opportunity to explore also, we just write it here and we just explore. And throughout the life cycle of creation of component, we just change this. We come back and it's like, oh, we tried this, we strike it, like, oh no, this is not the right thing. Let's strike that out. And we're just gonna go further with other things. Yeah, jumping into the sandbox. So this is a place where you see one huge file page, a lot of different options and a lot of different styles, and trying all these on the different products as you're creating. And this is a place for the designer to explore, to try out, to do things, to test things, how they will sit next to the other form elements, how the input will look like next to the drop down or select. In a similar way, trying out this on the different themes, how that will work out on different theme. So once he's like confident about this, he's just like, oh, I reached to a conclusion, like this is what I want to take next to the next level. And it's not just a work alone kind of thing. There's a lot of designer collaborating with each other on this file to reaching this. There's a lot of other sprint rituals we're doing and during our sprint. So it's all collaboration on the file. But once it's ready, we just put it to this V1 and make this V1. And then again, in the presentational mode, put all the variant first, all the feature second. Or if you already have a V1, you can create this folder and put this small pin next to it that this is the latest design. So you just put this latest design there. And now if any consumer come to this file, he can go quickly and see what's the latest design instead of going into Sandbox and looking for where should I look on this file and what's the latest of what's the real design, which is going into production or in the coding phase. So yeah, that's our design, latest design. We move to a component. We create component out of it using a Figma variants and the properties assigning to this component, icon, yes, no, and things like that. It's really a good feature. And then at the end of the day, you just have one component and anybody can use that component. Style rules page, as I'm earlier telling you about the style rules page, we try to do this how it looked like you're starting with anatomy, putting all the variation and writing all the details next to it, all the feature details. And then we do a lot of debate about it, like, okay, well, maybe text floating label variant, we have to test it. I don't know, we don't know, we're gonna take that or not. But things like that, we just put all these things out there for everybody to understand where we are. And sometimes we do this notes. Every time we review something, we make a note and we make sure we strike those tasks and things. And just to be clear, we are using this, but then we have another project management tool along with it. But mostly we are focused here on the Figma file. So you still find everything at one place. And yeah, once you have more clear about things, you go back, change design, update. And sometimes even when we're doing a design, there are things that we just go back and we just say, okay, let's strike that. We're not doing this and things like that. There's a lot of back and forth. And then we move to handover page. And I'm just going to take quickly to take you through the handover page. A typical handover page, you look into a lot of design system, starts with anatomy and then goes to variants. And here you can use Figma inspector to look at everything, but then there are things like dimensions here, for example, and here we're using a token. Let me go to full screen. So for example, the space, the background here on this 0.1, or it's this, or this is actually a Figma component. So you can, for example, here, yeah. So you can click on it and you can change from here that very easily that it's not using a primary color, it's using a secondary color, and you just choose that. And it's just saying to secondary color. It's just, we made our token as a components in Figma in one place. So if you change something, it will reflect everywhere. Or if a developer looking at it, he knows that for background, he have to use color territory or secondary or primary color. So yeah, this is how we're using all these tokens into the file. But when we're designing, we're using clearly this auto layout mostly, and we try to do an auto layout. And if you're using the plugin earlier I mentioned, you can pass the auto layout values through that plugin. So you put these tokens in the plugin, and then from there you drive these auto layout values from the plugin. But here, again, just for the handovers page for the developer. So if developer goes in, he clearly sees it says extra small. If it's wrong, we can clearly put it in small. So it's a small size between label to this area here, label to input field. So this is how we're using token, and we made sure like developer have the same names in their file. So when they're reading, it's very easy for them to understand this is space token and this is font size token. Anything without the initial prefix, it's a spacing token. And last, finally, our website. And we do this, we try to create a page here and mimic everything, how the live example will look like, are we gonna put the code examples there so our consumer can read and consume this component. And that's pretty much it. And yeah, thanks everybody. And I think so it's a time for questions.
Thank you so much. That was a really, really in-depth dive and look into your design system. I do have lots of questions that I would love to ask you. And I'm sure there's going to be more coming into the chat as well. I'll just kick off with some that I have. So I think the first one is that right at the front, you mentioned that you're building a diverse multinational design systems team. And I was wondering whether that was intentional from you, or is it just a natural growth that happened that you started to hire this more diverse team?
I think it was an intention. So we had the style guide on place for a few years. And I think then there was a clear understanding that we need to have a dedicated team to accelerate the development of this. And at that point, when we started to hire the team, then there was a kind of evolution from the style guide to build up the design system. Obviously, that was the hot topic in 3 years ago already, the discussions that how do you bring the designers and developers to the same guideline system and not to have separate things, because that collaboration have always been, I mean, challenging in partly because there's different approaches, what you bring on the table when you create that product. So that was intention to have. And I think that based on the experience, it seems to be that it's rather fundamental, if you have a design system in a large organization at least, to have a dedicated small team who is kind of responsible of maintaining and further developing and promoting it as well. Awareness is such a critical part as well, because in a huge organization, not everybody at ABB is even aware that we have it. And there's a lot of work to be done on that area as well.
Yeah. Great. It's good to hear that there's intention there, that you want to build this large, diverse team. It's really great to hear. The next questions I do have are all very technical, so let's just jump into those ones. You have one design system, and I'd wonder what your advice would be for someone who's starting something brand new. Would you say keep everything in one place, or would you think that eventually you'll ultimately have multiple design systems that are spinning off each other?
So I can take that. I think so. Just start with inventory, and that inventory will guide you, and keep that at one place. And slowly, as you're creating this design, one design system, you realize that maybe you need another one. But I have 100% sure if you put inventory, you just need to put it in one place, so you can reflect it back, and you can improve it as you go along. So recommend it in one place here.
Cool. So you'd recommend starting with an inventory, and then everything should naturally fall into place after that.
True.
Rather naturally, but
it's easy after that.
It's good to remember that start with the current status understanding. If you start building a design system without understanding who you're building it for and what kind of products, what are your objectives and goals, so make sure that you understand what is there. If it's not a startup and no products existing, normally you have a large, like enterprise level, you have a lot of legacy stuff. So you have to understand what is there, what is going on, and what are the goals, and how to take those further to the next level. I mean, what we are talking about, the consistency, coherence, better usability in our digital products.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And how do you manage the releases internally when you're doing those?
I think so. We have a sprint focused team, and we do everything in sprint. And as I see another question here, like what's the timeline of that, and what's the deadlines of it? I think the design system continuous improvement, and we have we quarterly define our KPIs, that how much time we're going to spend on this and what we're going to release in the whole quarter. But then we make it divide into different sprints, and yeah, pretty much everything goes by the sprints, and we define our sprint targets and what we have to achieve in this sprint. So there's no hard deadlines there, but we still have to release our components and give it to the consumers who are using it.
Yeah. And when you start to think about new releases or new versions of components, how do you communicate that internally to make sure that if there's going to be changes that will break something, people are aware of that and can anticipate that?
I think so. We have this change log on our website. We have this internal website where we put everything. And for the new components or changing that component, we just established this experimental phase where we push this component for the experiment to people to see and try it out. And then we go back and change it further and then release it. In the recent experimental component, there are some breaking changes, and there will be some breaking changes on the code side because the components sometimes change drastically. But right now, till now, we never did a right huge breaking change. The possibility there will be some, but we try the experimental components. So we release them, we get feedback, we share with the people on our common UX website.
Okay, and so would there effectively be, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's one good topic, is to try to find the balance, depending what kind of organizations you work. But at least in our case, we have products that have a long life cycle. And as taken for granted is that don't make breaking changes. At the same time, we try to educate our people in that sense that in the current world, the change is evident and design is never ready. So how do you find the balance there, that you are inserting new things and changes little by little, but not try to avoid this kind of dramatic changes and to heavy breaking changes?
And just I add a quick thing from the code side. We are using NPM, and it's a proper versioning system. So all the coder, they can go to a previous version or can update their version as they like. Yeah.
Okay, great. And so you've got some pretty complex templates and pages structures that you have internally. Is that something that you set up as a template that people can duplicate, or do people have to manually go and create this every time?
Yeah, the first file in the whole folder structure is a template. You just duplicate that. And we tried out some plugin also for this, but it didn't work out. So we just created one template, and you just duplicate every time you're creating a new component or a pattern.
Great. And the question here, of which was +1 in the chat, is how do you restrict non-design system team members from editing pages in there? How do you manage that from an operational perspective?
I think so. We recently, even our developers, they are mostly on Vue, but some developers and some designers, even Marjukka, I see sometimes going into the file and updating things, but it's not the design related, but something more on the discussion related pages. So I never had a problem with anybody non-designer changing anything, the design, but most of the time just make sure that they come in, they post, and they write their notes. So it's free for them to change anything except from design. Yeah.
Great. And on the operational perspective as well, you have these cover pages for all of your different components and all those different files that are moving. How do you ensure that cover pages are kept up to date, and who's responsible for that?
I would give a hint there that don't make your cover pages too data intensive. So try to have just few things there. So then it's much easier to keep them up to date. So we, for example, like what Abdul mentioned, referring that we have another system that we kind of follow our Scrum model, so our sprint. So we use Azure DevOps for that to plan out those tasks, and we have work items there. So that is kind of showing maybe the latest status, so you can follow there and sync with what is then on the Figma cover page. But maybe my best hint would be that don't put too much data on that cover page, because you will run into trouble to ensure that it's up to date always.
That's good advice.
Yes, truly, and keep it simple. And as looking at ours, it's just a name, and then there's like just 3 states. So exactly. It's hardly you take a move from one state to other state in a month or a week or 2 months. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. When you're thinking about building new components or updating them, perhaps, do you have any metrics for how you track the success of an update or how you track the success of a component?
I think so. We don't have any fixed metrics till now, but we have to put that framework along with that. Right now, it's just like if we get a request from somebody, so it's making sure that product, we're fulfilling what's product required. And that's kind of ultimate metrics we have right now.
Okay.
And I think the role of the community is very important here. So this is just something what we have started to kind of have a momentum last year for our community around the design system. So to get the developers and designers more and more involved and sharing their kind of feedback. So that's essential, and that is where we have been doing the work, and there's a lot to be done still.
Great. And you spoke a lot about the collaboration between design and development on building out your system. How does it work for things like the usability of a component? How do you manage that workflow?
I think so. The usability, the accessibility. I think so. That's handover pages is the ultimate thing for that. We make sure like, oh, we tested our accessibility things and there and pass on to developer. And as I said, it's very collaborative things. We are onto the into the code, working with the developer, looking at helping him. At the same time, developers are inside the Figma file. So it's just a collaboration, work together and pair programming kind of things.
Okay, cool. And then the last question, what problems do you currently have with your system and what do you think the future is? How are you going to improve this going forward? Or is it perfect?
No, maybe never perfect, but to have it at least on the good enough level. But I have to say that what Abdul just showed, the restructuring the whole file system, that has helped us tremendously. It has really kind of improved the process how we do it, because there's like at the beginning we were saying that there's a different ways of working for individual designers, what they prefer and how to do, and that has been a lot of work to align, even in a small team, that how do we come together and kind of do that designer developer collaboration, and certainly this Figma structure has actually give us kind of a structure for our process as well and help to be more kind of productive there. So that's certainly getting better, and being with the creative people, you always have these kind of ways of working, that how do you make space for all the different opinions and ideas, and how you then kind of take that into the decision and the final result. So, but Abdul, what would you say that
I think so,
issues at the moment or problems?
I think so. We change a lot. I think so. Every day we just change something, our structure, the way we work. Like for example, really early stage, we involve our designer our developer when we have something ready designed to show them. But then we realize, no, it's really bad. It's not working well. We bring them one page up and then one page up, and now developer is like literally starting a kickoff session where we just like do ideation. That, oh, this component need to be developed. Let's just do a kickoff session and bring developer also. So it's just every day we're changing things and we're learning and changing, learning and changing. So there's a lot changing.
Great. I think that's a really good spot for us to wrap up. Thank you for attending, everybody. Thank you for the excellent talk, and we'll see you all next time.